Also joining us for more updates on the Ekweremadu trial is Lakwe Olarinoye, our Arise correspondent in London. Thank you, Lakwe, for joining us this afternoon. It is quite a lot that is going on that side. Can you give us an update, if there have been, of what is transpiring on ground outside of the court?
Well, hi, Howard, and the rest of the other ladies. Well, today we've been here after a very, very long delay of waiting for Mrs. Beatrice Ekweremadu to arrive in court. After she arrived, they both arrived in the dock together and separated by an official security guard to prevent any kind of communication. They both had very somber looks on their faces, dressed in what is described as almost a cell attire and a grey jumper and a black cardigan, and they looked very somber throughout. Whilst the court case was proceeding, the lawyers, especially the prosecution, outlined what took place leading up to those charges, and they are being charged with exploitation with intent to harvest an organ. We also have more information on the complainant as well. At the end of the case, we had the most important information of the day, which highlighted to everybody in the courtroom that actually the complainant is now admitting that he is not a minor and he's not 15-year-old, which is what the case has been running with for the last 2 weeks. And he's admitted to being the age of 21, which of course changes the whole outlook of the case because he's now technically an adult and can be named. So that has been the significant highlight of the case. Of course, the courtroom was packed with a lot of supporters and of course a lot of protesters, some of which you can probably still see behind me, and some of them have moved over to the other side, who are on either side of this case. Some have come in solidarity. A number of politicians from Nigeria were also present, including Senator David Mark, former Deputy Governor of Abia State, Eyinaya Abaribe, as well as Adamu Bulkachuwa, who were all here present today to show their solidarity and support to both defendants. On the other hand, we also had protesters who have been here with big cardboard signs saying that they should be prosecuted. So that has really been the significant highlights of today. But like I say, it's worth reiterating that now the case has changed its face dramatically because the complainant is now not being described as a minor, as he has now admitted he is 21 years of age.
Thank you so much for that update, Lakwe. Just wondering about the protest that you mentioned. Was it disruptive or peaceful?
Well, relatively, it was quite peaceful in the sense that we had a few, and it was quite small, I'll be honest. I mean, there were 3 or 4 people here with big placards, no shouting, no disruption of the courts, as you can imagine. It is a court, so there's only a limited amount of disruption they can cause, but it did have a lot of traction in the sense that people were here taking pictures, people were asking questions as to why there were protesters outside a court case of such a high-profile Nigerian politician. So in that sense, it was a peaceful protest, but actually it sent a strong message that Nigerians in the UK living in the diaspora aren't necessarily united in their view of this case, and actually the majority of people that were here to show solidarity were from Nigeria and quite high profile themselves, many of which were politicians, as I've named earlier.
Now, Lakwe, as far as we know here, we do know that organ transplant or organ donation in the United Kingdom is not a crime. So I'd like you to gauge the mood of the British people concerning this case for us. How are they reacting to it?
Well, it's not as high profile a case as it is in Nigeria, and for obvious reasons. I mean, the people at the helm of this are 2 Nigerian high profile politicians. Now, the British public, the opinion, if I may say, is that that crux of the matter was the age of the person at the center of this, the complainant, who has been named as David. We don't have a surname just yet, but he's been named as David. And in fact, the fact that he has been described as a 15-year-old minor, a vulnerable one at that, is really what is pulling at the heartstrings. But like I said, it has changed dramatically towards the end of the case, where we now know that he's no longer a 15-year-old minor as he said he is, but actually now a 21-year-old adult. That changes a lot. It changes if we can actually take what he's saying on face value, if we can trust the rest of his account of what happened. And so, of course, that changes a lot. But the British public are really, especially the prosecution, which they said in court, are focusing on the fact that exploitation is not really hinged by your age. Anybody can be exploited. So there are also allegations of modern-day slavery, where the young man at the center of this, David, is saying that after he denied to have his organs supposedly harvested, that when he was returned back to the house, he was treated significantly differently, where he then escaped and had to sleep rough and was homeless for 3 days before he then went to Staines police station to report on the 5th of May. So those are the kind of emotional aspects of it, which is what the British public is kind of hammering on. But like I say, I think the main point of which is the age and the vulnerability of the said person has changed, but now we won't know anything till the 4th of August, because the case has now been adjourned and changed to a central criminal court where anything could happen by that time.
All right, thank you for that, Lakwe. We understand that you have someone on standby that you would like to interview pertaining to the case. Very briefly, for time's sake.
Yes, I think he has actually now vanished, unfortunately. He was standing by, but I think he's had to rush off. Behind me, though, which you probably can't see, is a number of senators. Senator Mr. Adamu Bulkachua, as well as Senator David Mark. They're just entering a black cab behind me. They have refused point blank that they do not want to be interviewed. They don't want to speak on this matter. And so, unfortunately, we won't be able to speak to them. And it's for obvious reasons. They came in solidarity of their fellow politician, so I don't expect them to. But if we just pan to the right, they're just heading off just over there in that black cab. We've just missed them. But yeah, they were the politicians that were here present, again, to show their solidarity.
Lakwe, we certainly appreciate this update that you've brought us. Thank you so much. Arise correspondent Lakwe Olarinoye.